Welcome, my friends. I am so glad you are here with me today. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine you are standing in the middle of a beautiful, busy city. You hear the sound of people talking and the smell of fresh bread. You look up at the sky. What do you see rising above the rooftops? You see a tall, iron giant. It is strong, elegant, and famous all over the world. Yes, we are talking about the Eiffel Tower. But have you ever stopped to wonder how it got there? Was it always loved by everyone? Did people think it was a good idea at first? Today, the Eiffel Tower is the symbol of France. It is a place where people fall in love and take beautiful photos. It feels like it has always been part of the city. But every great thing starts with a dream, and sometimes those dreams seem impossible. In the late 1800s, Paris wanted to show the world something amazing. They wanted to celebrate progress and human skill. But how do you show the world that you are the best? How do you build something that no one has ever seen before? Imagine a time before airplanes or tall skyscrapers. Back then, most buildings were made of stone and wood. They were short and heavy. Then, some people had a wild idea. They wanted to build a tower made entirely of iron. They wanted it to be the tallest structure on Earth. They wanted it to reach for the clouds. Do you think the people of Paris were excited? Or were they afraid of such a big change? Some people laughed at the idea. Others were angry because they thought it would be ugly. But dreams are powerful things, aren't they? They can push us to do things that seem crazy to others. So, let us go back in time together. Let's walk through the streets of old Paris. Let's find out how a simple drawing became a world-famous icon. It is a story of hard work, big risks, and a lot of heart. Are you ready to hear the story of the Iron Lady? Let's begin our journey. Every big project needs a leader. For this tower, that leader was a man named Gustave Eiffel. Gustave was an engineer. He was a man who loved to build things that were strong and useful. He had already built many bridges and train stations. He knew how to work with metal better than almost anyone else. But building a tower 300 meters high? That was something completely different. In 1889, Paris was hosting a very big event called the World's Fair. It was a giant party for technology and art. France wanted a centerpiece for this fair. They wanted a gateway that would make people gasp in surprise. Gustave Eiffel entered a contest to build this gateway. His design was bold, modern, and very tall. Think about it. At that time, the tallest building in the world was the Washington Monument. Eiffel's tower was going to be twice as high as that. It was a massive challenge for the human mind. But not everyone was happy about Gustave's plan. Have you ever had a big idea that people didn't understand? Many famous artists and writers in Paris hated the design. They called it a giant birdcage and a hateful column of bolted iron. They even wrote a famous letter to the government. They said the tower would ruin the beauty of Paris forever. They were worried that this iron monster would cast a shadow over their beautiful stone buildings. But Gustave Eiffel did not give up. He believed in his vision and his team of workers. He knew that iron was the material of the future. He knew it could be light and strong at the same time. Gustave even put his own money into the project. That is how much he believed in it. He wasn't just building a tower for a fair. He was building a monument to human intelligence. Can you imagine the pressure he felt? The whole city was watching him, and many were waiting for him to fail. But Gustave stayed calm. He looked at his drawings and his calculations. He was ready to prove the world wrong. He was ready to build the impossible. And so, the work began. The sound of hammers and machines started to fill the air of Paris. Building the Eiffel Tower was like putting together a giant puzzle. But this puzzle was made of very heavy pieces of iron. There were over 18,000 individual parts. Each part was designed perfectly to fit with the others. There were also 2.5 million rivets. Do you know what a rivet is? It is a small metal pin used to hold pieces of iron together. The work started in January 1887. It was a cold time to start such a big job. The workers were very brave. They had to climb high into the sky, often with no safety ropes. Imagine standing on a narrow piece of metal, hundreds of feet in the air. The wind is blowing, and the ground looks very far away. But Gustav Eiffel was very careful about safety. He made sure the workers were well trained. Because of his care, only one worker died during the construction. At that time, that was a very lucky and amazing thing. The tower grew very quickly. Every day, people in Paris looked up and saw it getting taller. It was like watching a tree grow, but a tree made of dark, strong iron. The pieces were made in a factory outside of Paris. Then they were brought to the site by horse and wagon. Everything had to be exact. If a hole was off by even 1 millimeter, the piece would not fit. Can you imagine the math involved? This was long before computers or modern calculators. It was a symphony of steel and human effort. Men worked in teams to heat the rivets and hammer them into place. They worked through the heat of summer and the ice of winter. They were proud of what they were doing. Slowly, the 4 giant legs began to curve upward. They met at the first floor, then the second. The people who hated the tower were still complaining, but the rest of the city was starting to feel curious. They had never seen anything rise so high. It was a miracle of engineering. Finally, after 2 years, 2 months, and 5 days, the tower was finished. Gustav Eiffel climbed the 1,710 steps to the top himself. He was the first to fly the French flag from the peak. The Iron Lady was born. She stood tall, straight, and proud over the city of Paris. The year was 1889. The sun was shining on the city of Paris. The World's Fair was finally open. Millions of people from all over the planet came to see the wonders of the world. But everyone wanted to see one thing more than anything else. They wanted to see the Eiffel Tower. On the opening day, the tower was a sight to behold. It was painted a reddish-brown color back then. Imagine the excitement in the air. People wore their best clothes and hats to see the great iron giant. When the fair opened, the elevators were not even finished yet. But that didn't stop the visitors. Thousands of people climbed the stairs just to see the view. They wanted to feel like they were standing on top of the world. Have you ever seen a view from a very high place? It changes how you see everything. From the top of the tower, the big city of Paris looked like a small toy set. The River Seine looked like a silver ribbon. The people were amazed. They had never seen the world from this perspective before. The tower was the tallest building in the world. It held that title for 41 years. At night, the tower was even more magical. It was lit up by gas lamps and a giant searchlight. It looked like a golden lighthouse in the middle of France. It was a fairy tale come to life. Even the people who hated the tower began to change their minds. They realized it was not just a pile of iron. It was a work of art. It was a symbol of what humans can do when they work together. Famous people came from everywhere to visit. Thomas Edison, the great inventor, even met Gustav Eiffel at the top. Gustav had a small private apartment at the very peak. Can you imagine having a home in the clouds? The Eiffel Tower was the star of the show. It was the most popular attraction at the fair. By the time the fair ended, nearly 2 million people had visited the tower. It was a huge success. But there was a secret problem that no one liked to talk about. The tower was only supposed to stay up for 20 years. After that, it was supposed to be torn down. The year 1909 was approaching. For many people, this was a sad date. The contract for the Eiffel Tower was about to end. The city of Paris had the right to take it apart and sell the iron. Can you imagine Paris without the Eiffel Tower? It is hard to think about now, isn't it? But back then, many people still thought the tower was temporary. They thought it was just a souvenir from a party that was over. Gustave Eiffel did not want to see his masterpiece destroyed. He had to find a way to make it useful. He knew that beauty was not enough to save it. He needed to give it a job. So, he began to use the tower for science. He turned it into a giant laboratory. He studied the wind at the top. He performed experiments with gravity. He even built a weather station on the tower. This helped people understand the climate better. But the thing that really saved the tower was the radio. This was a brand new technology at the time. Because the tower was so tall, it was the perfect place for a radio antenna. In 1903, the French military began using the tower for wireless telegraphy. This was very important for the army. During World War I, the tower's radio was used to listen to the enemy's messages. It helped France win important battles. Suddenly, the tower was not just a decoration, it was a hero. It was a vital part of the country's safety. The city decided to let the tower stay. They realized that it was worth more than just the price of its iron. As the years went by, the tower found more and more uses. It became a television tower and a telephone tower. It stood through wars and changes in fashion. It survived because it adapted to the times. Think about your own life. Sometimes we have to change and find new ways to be useful to keep going. The Eiffel Tower is a great example of that. It started as a dream, became a target of hate, and then became a necessary tool. It was no longer just a temporary building. It was becoming a permanent part of the Parisian soul. As time moved forward, something wonderful happened. The Eiffel Tower stopped being a piece of engineering and started being a friend. It became the Iron Lady that everyone loved. It became the heartbeat of the city. Whenever people thought of Paris, they thought of the tower. It appeared in movies, songs, and poems. It became a place of celebration. On Bastille Day, the tower is surrounded by beautiful fireworks. It became a place of romance. How many thousands of people have said, "I love you," under its lights? The tower has a way of making people feel special. When you stand beneath it, you feel small, but also connected to history. Every 7 years, the tower gets a fresh coat of paint. It takes 60 tons of paint to cover the whole thing. And did you know that the tower is painted in 3 different shades? It is darker at the bottom and lighter at the top. This makes it look uniform against the sky. It is a small detail, but it shows how much people care for it. Today, almost 7 million people visit the tower every year. People travel from every corner of the earth just to touch its iron legs. It has become the most visited paid monument in the entire world. But why do we love it so much? Is it just because it is tall? I think it is because the tower represents the spirit of Paris. It is elegant, strong, and a little bit stubborn. It reminds us that even if people don't believe in our ideas at first, we should keep going. It tells us that beauty and science can live together in one place. The tower has seen the world change. It saw the invention of the car, the airplane, and the internet. Through everything, it stayed the same. It is a constant friend in a changing world. When the lights sparkle on the tower every hour at night, the whole city stops to look. It is a moment of magic that brings everyone together. Whether you are a local or a tourist, you feel the same wonder. The Eiffel Tower is more than just metal. It is a symbol of hope and the human heart. We have come to the end of our story today, my friends. But the story of the Eiffel Tower never truly ends. As we look back, what can we learn from this iron giant? We learn that great things take time and hard work. The tower was not built in a day, and it was not saved overnight. We learn that it is okay to be different. The tower did not look like the buildings around it, and that is what made it special. Think about Gustav Eiffel. He had a vision that others couldn't see. He faced criticism with grace and stayed focused on his work. Today, his name is known by everyone because he dared to reach for the sky. The Eiffel Tower stands as a testament to human ambition. It shows us that we can build things that last far longer than our own lives. It is a bridge between the past and the future. It uses 19th century iron to send 21st century signals. When you look at a photo of the tower, or if you are lucky enough to stand in its shadow, remember the workers. Remember the 2.5 million rivets and the cold winter mornings. Remember the dream that almost didn't happen. The Iron Lady is still standing, and she is still beautiful. She reminds us to keep looking up. No matter how many challenges we face, we can find a way to survive and thrive. So, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this journey through history. I hope you feel a little more connected to this famous icon. The next time you see the Eiffel Tower, I hope you smile. I hope you remember that it is a story of courage and art. Thank you for listening to this story by the fire. It has been a pleasure to share it with you. Paris is a city of light, and the Eiffel Tower is its brightest flame. Keep dreaming, keep building, and always keep looking toward the clouds. What will you build in your life? What legacy will you leave behind? The world is waiting for your big ideas. Don't be afraid to be a little bit impossible.